Welcome to the Chorley and Leyland online daily Advent calendar reflection for Saturday the 5th of December. Now the text for today is two verses from Hebrews. The first is from Hebrews chapter 6 verse 19. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. The second is from Hebrews chapter 10 verse 23. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Whenever I hear that verse from Hebrews 6 about hope being an anchor, it always reminds me of the great hymn which became a Boys Brigade anthem, Will Your Anchor Hold? And the chorus, which is taken directly from this verse, we have an anchor that keeps the soul steadfast and sure while the billows roll. I'm sure that each of us have experienced something of those billows in our lives over the past year. Each of us have had various problems to deal with, which may or may not have been related to COVID and the various lockdowns. We all carry some burdens. We've all been pushed around and blown and buffeted around by the various storms of life, whether that be grief or uncertainty, doubt or worry. And yet we're still here. What has kept you strong and kept you going through the storms of the past year? What or who has been your anchor? If you think about the anchor on a ship, you always have a very, very long chain. Obviously, the chain has to be long enough for the anchor to reach all the way to the bottom of the ocean. But as long as that anchor is attached to the chain at one end and the boat is attached to the chain at the other end, then the boat will remain fast. It isn't going anywhere. Jesus is our anchor. And as long as we are attached and hold on to that chain, he will keep us safe. Sometimes we just need to hold on patiently. And that reminds me of a definition of hope that came to me during a bit of a traumatic experience. And my apologies to those from Leyland and Midge Hall churches who've heard this illustration before. But when I first started as a youth worker, the church that I was part of, it was a tradition that every February half term, the youth group went on a ski trip to Scotland. Now, I can't ski. I've never been able to ski. And despite having 6 beginners lessons, I'm still not very good. But on that very first trip, there was a day when we went out and the weather was horrendous. It was blowing a gale. It was a blizzard, and really only the very best of skiers should have been out skiing that day. But there we were trying to ski. And we had to go up a particularly tricky pommel lift. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with pommel lifts, this is what one looks like. You have this plastic circle which you have to put your legs either side of and hold onto the pole, and it pulls you up the slope, a bit like this. Well, that was fine, but the instructor's last words to me were, don't sit down, whatever you do, on the little plastic circle. You're only really supposed to lean on them. You're not supposed to put your full weight on them. Well, I didn't realise that, and I thought I wasn't allowed to lean on it at all. So I'm holding on to this pole and trying to hold my whole body weight on this pole through my arms as it pulled me up the slope. And that lift was so long. I felt like I was on it for about 3 years. And it was an absolute blizzard. You could see nothing around you, only snow. Couldn't even see the person on the lift who was only a couple of metres in front of me. I was freezing cold, I was tired, my arms were aching from trying to hold myself up, and I was just holding on for dear life, picturing the end when I could get off this lift and have a hot chocolate to recover. And it struck me that day that was actually quite a good acronym for hope. If you take each of the letters and add a word to it, and if you add the words holding on, picturing the end. When we're going through the storms of life, let us hold fast to that chain, hold firmly to that anchor that is Jesus. and picture the end. Now, that end could be the end to our struggles and a resolution to our problems and a peace here and now. Or that end that we could picture could be living in the peace and joy of heaven, for that is our ultimate hope as Christians. But holding on, picturing the end. Whatever storms you're travelling through just now, keep holding on to that anchor that is Jesus and picturing the end. And I pray that this Advent and Christmas you may know the true hope that this season brings through the birth of the baby Jesus. Amen.